Welcome to your Daily 5 for Monday, May 26th, 2025. For our commentary film this week, Lando and I decided to watch a film from 1985 titled Crimewave, directed by Sam Raimi of the Evil Dead films, and written by the Coen brothers of many well-known films, including my favorite, which would be Raising Arizona. And it is essentially, it's described in many different ways, but I think the intent of the film was to be a zany crime comedy film, kind of like a Raising Arizona, but without all the things that made that one of the most exceptional films you'll ever watch. Now, this is a movie, Lando had watched this more recently than I have. I had vivid memories of this from when I was very young. I remember this running in heavy circulation on one of the movie channels. You know, there were basically the big four, and it was on one of the big four quite often. And I did not remember much of the film. I remembered very specific parts. And in rewatching it, I realized why I only remembered specific parts. Because this movie is a mess, as many reviews accurately describe it. It is trying, again, to be something like a Raising Arizona. And at points it succeeds, and where it succeeds are the parts I remember, which are specifically in its villains, portrayed by Brian James, who is a well-known character actor, and Paul L. Smith, who I know from a lot of things, but probably isn't. I don't know, I think most people would probably recognize him as Bluto from Popeye, or if you're a fan of the Dune film, the Lynch one, like I am, you'll know him as the Beast Raban. He was in many other things, including an Italian slasher titled Pieces. He's done work, but I don't know that he's not as well recognized as Brian James would have been. But those two in this film are the reason to watch it. They are doing absolutely off-the-wall lunatic turns, and it is delightful all the way through. There is not a moment where one of those two or the two of them together are not on screen and you are compelled to watch, because whatever they were told to do, they did it correctly. The problem is everybody else, except Bruce Campbell, who shows up for a bit part, and he's doing his normal Bruce Campbell thing, and it's fine. But everything outside of those two villains, the movie just feels like it suddenly grinds to a sudden halt. And those are the parts I didn't remember, because I hadn't seen this movie in, I'm not going to exaggerate, 25 to 30 years. I remember seeing it a lot when I was younger, and then I kind of forgot about it. And I think it's because the main hero and the love interest are just utterly boring. And when they're on screen, again, the movie just seems to massively slow down, and you're just waiting for the villains to reappear. And then when they do, you kind of forget about the boring parts until they show back up. And that's the real problem with the film, which I wouldn't call it a bad film. You can definitely see, from all accounts, the background on this movie, it was a mess. There was a lot of studio fighting. The edit was taken away for Sam Raimi's editor. Nobody really seems to have a fond memory of it, but in watching it, you do see these moments of brilliance where it does make me wonder if Sam Raimi today and the Coen brothers were to team up, what the movie would look like if they would not have a classic on their hands, because this does feel like it is filmmakers and writers going through a transition point to figure out how to make what they want to make work. And unfortunately, about half the time in this movie, it doesn't. I wouldn't call it a bad film, because it's too well made to be a bad film. There's too much fun in it to say it's a bad film. But I will say, is it a movie I will ever voluntarily watch again? Probably not. Because even those fun moments, I'll go watch clips of them on YouTube rather than sit through this whole movie. Because when the movie slows down, it slows down. And it's very hard to stay engaged with it. I'll tell you something as a valid comparison point. Right before I watched Crimewave, and I'll bring this up again when we talk about it on Friday, right before I watched Crimewave, my wife and I watched the Batman from 2022, a 3-hour film, and this movie at less than 90 minutes felt longer, and that's saying something. So, again, I don't want to over-criticize, because it's not a terrible film. There's too much competency in it, and those zany moments are really fun. But I don't know that I could necessarily tell most people to watch it, or if I'm going to, just be aware that when the villains aren't on screen, you're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting for them to come back. So Crimewave, I wish I could tell you that I rediscovered a film from my youth that I'd forgotten about and it held up better than I thought. But unfortunately, what I really rediscovered is, there's a lot of boring parts, and that's why I haven't watched it in a long time. Later.